The Incredible Heartbeat community recently had me as a guest expert talking about retention strategies. I wanted to share with you this clip where I do a deep dive into my retention accelerator framework. If you have an established membership and you want to grow and scale that membership, retention needs to be a focus, and it starts with understanding this framework. We're going to dive in to the retention accelerator framework. Okay, so this framework is not a specific strategy. And if you've ever listened to my podcast, you know that I tend to not teach very specific strategies. And the reason being is because your membership is unique. If you were to list out here, in fact, go ahead and do that. Like list out like who you serve, what the main outcome is of your membership, and maybe how you even deliver on that. You're going to have a wide gamut of people that you're serving, the result you're trying to get for them, how you're actually supporting them. I get applications all the time and it's like, oh, well, I do lesson plans for teachers, or I do coaching for C-suite executives, or, I do style guides for women who want to dress better. And so it runs the gamut as to how you have your membership structure. So it would be silly of me to go, this is what's going to fix retention in your business. But what I want to do and what I always try to do is to empower people to understand the strategy behind the decisions that I make for my clients so that you can be strategic in your own membership. So that's why I'm teaching you this framework this way. I want you to be intentional about your program design, content coaching community, and your member journey map design. And this is going to help you understand the outcomes that you're looking for that. Okay. So we have 3 accelerators. Think of these accelerators as things that aren't necessarily essential, nor are they like the foundation of retention. I mean, at the end of the day, like your price point impacts retention, right? Whether somebody has got a software impacts retention, whether you do in-person events, all of that stuff impacts retention. These are accelerators to where if you already have your program design and you're not trying to mess with pricing and all of that kind of stuff and mess with your offer to change and impact your retention rate, then these are accelerators that you can leverage to get that churn rate down. And the first one is pretty simple, but equally complicated. Okay. The first one is going to be results. Results. Okay. This is the outcome that we need. If people are getting results, they will stay in your membership. And I know that feels so simple, but if you're here, you're running a membership and you know that is such a pain point for you. You're like, I'm giving you all the things. You have Q&A calls, you have like transcripts of calls, you have trainings, you have workbooks, like you have all the things and you're still not getting the result. You're still not doing the work, right? So this result piece is the foundation of a good retention strategy, because at the end of the day, if we don't have a great product, if we cannot get people the result that we promised them, they are going to leave and they are not going to tell people to join our program. But if we get people a result, then not only are they going to stay, they are going to tell other people to join because they've gotten the result that we promised them. So I say this because many of us are trained on marketing way more than we are on product delivery. I love my marketers. I've been a marketer for many, many years. But the kiss of death in your membership is over-promising and under-delivering. And the better you get at marketing, the better you get at over-promising. So we need to make sure that as we get good at marketing and really good at saying we're going to overcome all of these objections or we're going to solve these problems for people, all of that marketing speak that we get taught, we need to make sure that we are getting equally as good at getting people results. Okay. And that means we need a clear progress path. We need to be very clear about how we're going to get somebody from point A to point B. And don't tell me that you're just a community or you don't help people make progress or there's no result. That's not true, because even the feeling of belonging and connection and feeling known is a result in the end. And we have to take certain action steps to get that feeling and that experience. So nobody's joining if there isn't some result or some promise within your membership. So we want to make sure we have that clear progress path, and we want to be looking at ways to support them along that path. So frequently asked questions, Q&A calls, team members we might need to support them, PDF guides, We might need to get better and improve our teaching skills because we don't teach in a way that people can easily understand. But we really want to ask this one question. When you're thinking about result and you're looking at your membership and you're going, how can I improve the results for my members? I want you to ask yourself the question, where is the friction? Where is the friction? What is keeping people from making progress? How can I make it easier for them to make progress? How can I make it faster for them to make progress? And now that we have AI, I'm just going to tell you, there's no excuse for us not having a guide with every single training. There's no excuse for us not popping templates out to our members. So if we tell them, like, you should have an email and write an email this way, and this is how I teach you to do the email, then I should be putting that into ChatGPT and spitting out a few email template options for them. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about, like removing the friction to make it easier for them. And that's part of your program design. And you also want to be asking yourself the question of, how can I get them a quick win? This gets really important as we talk about early retention. Most memberships lose most of their members within the first 90 days, even less sometimes. So making sure that once they've completed that onboarding process, we're ready to get them a quick win. It's not the big result, but it's a way for them to see progress. So again, with results, you want to ask yourself the question, what is the friction? Where is the friction in this membership? What's keeping them from making progress? And that may mean you need to ask your members as well. I'm a big fan of getting on the phone with your members, surveying your members, and finding out where the friction is for them. Okay. Second accelerator is recognition. But recognition, this is a few things. So making sure that we see our members as individuals. As your membership scales, it feels hard because you knew everybody in the beginning, and now your membership is getting bigger and you feel like you can't personalize things anymore. But that's not true. We can continue to see people as individuals and personalize the experience for them. And we can do this in a few ways. So very simply, personalizing any of our communication and engagement. Simply using their first name is an easy way to do this. When you have a Q&A call or a coaching call and people are hopping on, say their name, right? Ask them questions to put in the chat and say their name and recognize what they're saying inside of the chat. Send a personalized video message. You can use tools like Bonjoro to send a personalized video message to new members, whether that's you or a team member doing that. When you see people interacting in your community and they're doing something that you love, you recognize that in them and you say, gosh, thank you so much for stepping up and supporting Sally with her question. We're intentional around personalizing our communication and our engagement, but we also want to make sure to personalize the guidance that we're giving people. So if we think about all of our content that we have, and we think about the different kinds of people that join our membership, chances are some people are a little bit further ahead than others, right? And if we can identify that Jess is brand new to sewing and Sally actually has sewn a pillow before, then what I would guide Sally to start with may be a little different than what I would guide Jess to start with. So whether I'm personally doing that or my community manager is doing that, or whether I have an assessment or a quiz, or even just a PDF that says, if you're here and you can do these things, start with this training. Or if you're here and you can do this, start with training 4, right? That kind of personalized guidance will help recognize the fact that people are unique in their journey, and it will also help get people results as well. And then finally, we want to make sure to celebrate them by celebrating progress and celebrating their contribution. So I have this whole thing called the progress wheel, but the basics of that is we want to spotlight people as often as we can. We want to spotlight any progress they're making, whether that's just completing the onboarding, submitting their first worksheet, sewing their first line on the fabric, attempting their first painting, putting their first post in our community. We want to make sure to celebrate them and the progress that they're making because we don't often recognize progress ourselves. We need people to spotlight it for us. And we want to celebrate the contributions that they're making to the community as well. So, as you're thinking through all of these opportunities with recognition, the simple thing that you want to ask yourself is, where do I have an opportunity for personalization and praise? So, as you're looking at the member journey, you're looking at how you have your community structured or your coaching structured or your content structured, you ask that question, where do I have an opportunity for personalization? And where do I have an opportunity for praise? And if you review everything with that question in mind, personalization and praise, you'll see so many opportunities in your membership to really hit on this recognition accelerator. Okay,
Wonderful. Hey, can I
finally,
float up
yeah,
a question to
yeah,
you
of
if I
course, yeah.
may? Yeah, it looks like, oh, you know what? This may have been, you triggered my memory on it because we're talking about all these transformative steps and recognition and personalization along the way. Randy had asked if there were any sample member journey maps that were, again, we're talking about templates and things, right? I didn't know if you had anything of that nature or if you could just advise people on where to research those things, if there are things that you could go out into the world and find as they start to figure out where to plug these framework pieces in.
So that's one of our core programs actually, is giving people like a full member journey map, all of the
Mhm.
templates and coaching people on creating that. So unfortunately, that's not something that I have for free because we've put a ton of work into designing that. But the thing that I really want you to just be thinking about is what are the different touch points in that experience? And I'll make sure to get the team. I have a podcast episode slash YouTube video that walks through the different triggers that you need to be thinking about in a member journey map and how to think through those if you want to design one yourself.
I think that would be extremely valuable content. And then, of course, you can always share any links to any resources at the end, too, if you had ones out there, if Randy wanted to see further about what you had to offer. But thanks for letting me
Yeah,
slide that in.
of
I didn't want
course.
to throw off your pacing there.
Yeah, no, that's good. Okay, so we have results, we have recognition, and then finally we have relationships. And a lot of people think relationships is the main thing for me because I do have a community training course. I talk a lot about community. And the reason being is because I personally am super passionate about the concept of belonging. Maslow's hierarchy of needs years ago, back in grade school, right, taught us that belonging is a core human need. And what I've found, and what many of you have found through the pandemic and lots of other things, is that it's something that most people lack, and they're going online to get this sense of belonging. And the cool thing is when we can give people a sense of belonging through being a part of our community, they show up more fully in the world. And that is a super deep passion for mine, which is why I talk about it all the time. But when we think about it in the realm of retention design, we're thinking about how do we create relationships and connection between the member and myself, whether even if that is not a two-way relationship, even if that's just them feeling more connected to me because I'm not in business mode all the time, right? I'm sharing a little bit of myself. I'm being really authentic, not transparent. You don't have to share everything, but I'm being authentic. I'm being true to who I am. And I'm giving them a peek behind the curtain a little bit as to my life and that I am more than just this business coach or whatever you might be. And then secondly, you want to be thinking about connection to your team. So a lot of people I find have community managers or team members and they don't want them involved in their community and they don't want to let people know that they have all of these people supporting them because they're afraid they're going to build a relationship with that person and then maybe I'm going to have to let them go and then that's going to cause issues or they're not going to show up in the same way that I'm going to show up. And the reality is that when your team gets involved, it gives more touch points, more connection points, and it gives diversity so that people have the opportunity to feel more connection if maybe they don't feel as much connection with you. And then finally, with each other. And that's the community piece that we all love and talk about. Like, how do we help them connect more with each other? And yes, that happens inside of our community platform. That happens on our live calls. That can happen at in-person gatherings. There's so many different ways that we can do this, but even just sharing more stories of community members within our community can help them feel more connected as a community. So I could talk about this forever. Like I said, I have a whole course on this and a gajillion podcast episodes on creating community. But what I really want you to do is I want you to ask yourself the question, how can I create more connection points in this experience? Whether that be with me, with my team, or with each other. How can I create more connection points? There's lots of different ways that you can do this. I have a free guide that's like 77 connection ideas. So if you're running out of ideas, there's plenty of them there. We'll get you the link to that as well. But how can I create more connection points is the question you want to be asking. And I'll just tell you the reason I do focus on this one so much is because when you get the relationship piece right, this community piece, it supports the other two accelerators of recognition and results because the community is doing the work that you and the team were doing solo to help people get results and recognize others as individuals and recognize their progress. Results are spurred on in the context of relationships through support and accountability and encouragement. Recognition occurs in the context of relationships when other people feel seen, they feel known, they're sharing wins together and celebrating those together. So when we get this relationship piece right, and we're thinking about all of those different connection points throughout the journey, then we set ourselves up for success with results and recognition as well. If you want a visual of this framework and more ideas on how to actually make these accelerators happen, just get my free retention roadmap guide. Go to retainguide.com. I've got the image of the framework there and go into more detail into how to actually make it happen.